Thomas Vance smiled as the pen hit the paper. With one clean signature, his divorce was final. He felt a literal weight lift from his shoulders. He looked across the polished mahogany table at Elena, his wife of 10 years, now his ex-wife. She was a ghost, a gray mouse staring at her hands. He had won. He kept the company, the multi-million-dollar house, the future. She kept her, well, whatever it was she did. As he pushed his chair back triumphant, he saw a black sedan pull up outside. Then he watched his smile frozen as Elena stood and the car door opened. A man stepped out. Not just any man. Julian Thorne, the billionaire. Thomas's smile didn't just fade. It shattered. Thomas Vance lived his life at a victorious 9,000-foot altitude, and tonight he was soaring. The occasion was the annual Metropolitan Tech Gala, a glittering affair of black ties and venture capital. Thomas, in a custom-tailored Tom Ford tuxedo that cost more than most people's cars, was the undisputed center of gravity. His company, Vance Solutions, was the city's darling. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a visionary. "The key is predictive agility, gentlemen," Thomas said, his voice a smooth, confident baritone. He swirled a glass of 18-year-old Macallan, the ice clinking like a small bell. His audience, 2 hedge fund managers and a rival CEO, hung on every word. "Anyone can read the present. We at Vance Solutions, we sell the future." Across the ballroom, his new girlfriend Tiffany, a 24-year-old influencer with a $1 million smile and 2 million followers, waved a manicured hand. She was draped in a crimson dress that left nothing to the imagination and everything to the social media post. He'd be joining her later after he was done being brilliant. "It's incredible, Tom," said one of the fund managers, a man named Blevins. "Your Vance engine, it's black magic. Black. It hasn't missed a market projection in 3 years. How do you do it?" Thomas smiled. "A magician never reveals his secrets. Let's just say I see the patterns others miss." "And your wife, Elena?" Blevins asked, taking a sip. "She's not here tonight." Thomas let out a short, patronizing laugh. "Ah, Elena. No. Galas aren't her scene. You know how it is. She's brilliant, of course, but domestic. She's happier at home tinkering with her spreadsheets, I think." The men chuckled. They all knew the type. The ball-and-chain academic wife who didn't understand the high-stakes world they inhabited. They clapped Thomas on the back, the unspoken consensus clear. Thomas Vance was a titan burdened with a gray, unglamorous partner. What none of them knew was that at that exact moment the titan's phone was vibrating. He'd been ignoring the texts for an hour. "Elena Thomas, the data from Gentech is flawed. Elena, the sensor ratings from their Singapore hub are ghosting. It's not a supply issue, it's a hardware failure. You're getting false negatives." "Elena, Thomas, are you there? Their CEO is at the gala. He's going to pull the contract if you give him the wrong data." Thomas had finally glanced at the last text, annoyed. "Handling it, L. Stop buzzing my phone. You're being dramatic." Now he saw the CEO of Gentech Pharma, a formidable man named Dr. Eris, heading his way. Eris did not look happy. "Vance," Eris said, skipping the pleasantries. "I'm hearing whispers. My team says your Vance engine is projecting a 40% downturn in our Q4 logistics. We're about to sink $100 million into a new distribution hub based on that. I'm getting cold feet. Convince me." Thomas froze. This was the client. The $50 million a year contract that had made Vance Solutions. His mind went blank. He didn't know the data. He just sold it. He stammered, "Well, Eris, the projections, the agility." Eris's eyes narrowed. "I'm not paying you for agility, Tom. I'm paying you for answers." Thomas's hands, slick with sweat, gripped his phone under the table. He fumbled opening the text chain from Elena. He squinted at her last message. "Elena, tell him to check the diagnostic logs on server SG-1488. The humidity sensor is fried. It's causing a cascade failure that looks like a supply drop. It's not $100 problem, it's a $1,000 part. He's fine. Tell him. Thomas cleared his throat. He looked up, his confidence a mask he'd worn for so long it had become his face snapping back into place. Eris, he said, his voice suddenly sharp and precise. Your problem isn't your supply chain. It's your hardware. Specifically the humidity sensor on your server at the Singapore Hub ID SG1488. It's fried. It's causing a data cascade that's ghosting your inventory. You don't need a new $100 million hub. You need a $1,000 part and a new IT guy. The blood drained from Dr. Eris's face. He snapped his fingers at a nearby aide. Get Singapore on the line. Get me a diagnostic on server 1488, now. Eris stared at Thomas, his suspicion replaced by a profound, almost fearful respect. How, in God's name, could you know that? Thomas Vance leaned in, a wolfish grin playing on his lips. Like I said, Eris, I see the patterns. He accepted the thunderous clap on the back, took another sip of his Macallan, and didn't look at his phone again. Later that night at 2 a.m., he stumbled into his sprawling minimalist mansion. The glass and steel monstrosity had been featured in Architectural Digest, a testament to his success. Tiffany was passed out in the cab, having drunk too much pink champagne. He found Elena where he always found her, in her studio. It was the one room he hadn't upgraded. It was a mess of servers, whiteboards covered in what looked like gibberish, and half-empty cups of tea. She was asleep at her desk, her head pillowed on a keyboard, her glasses askew. She looked small, worn out. Elle, he said, nudging her shoulder. Elle, wake up. You can't sleep in here. It's unprofessional. She startled awake, pushing her hair back. Thomas, you're home. Did you talk to Dr. Eris? Was it okay? Okay. Thomas laughed, unbuttoning his tuxedo. It was perfect. You should have seen his face, Elle. You were right. That sensor thing, brilliant. He thought I was a god. He tossed his jacket onto a stack of her research papers. Oh, good, she said, her voice quiet with relief. I was so worried. Yeah, well, you worry too much, he said, patting her on the head. It was the gesture one gives a loyal dog. You'll never believe the night I had. Blevins is in. He's upping his stake. I'm going to be bigger than ever. He looked around the room, a wave of disgust washing over him. We really need to clean this place up, Elle. It's a fire hazard. And Tiffany is coming over for brunch tomorrow. I don't want her seeing all this. Your little hobby is getting out of hand. Elena looked up at him. Her eyes, which he'd always thought of as dull, mousy brown, were still. There was no anger, no exhaustion, just a profound, unsettling clarity. A hobby, she repeated. It wasn't a question. You know what I mean, he said, waving dismissively. The code stuff. It's great. It helps me. But it's cluttered. Anyway, I'm going to bed. Lock up. He walked out whistling. He didn't see her hand move to her desk drawer. He didn't see her pull out a small encrypted hard drive. And he didn't see her turn back to the screen where a single secure chat window was open. The contact name was simple JT. Her message was 2 words. He's home. The reply was instantaneous. The legal team is on standby. The jet is fueled. Are you sure, Elena? She looked at the $500 tuxedo jacket crumpled on her priceless doctoral thesis. She thought of him calling her a hobby. She thought of the other woman asleep in a taxi outside her house. She typed, I am sure. He's cutting out the cancer. I'm just making sure he doesn't take the healthy tissue with him. Elena Petrova had not been a gray mouse for her entire life. She had been a supernova. At 22, she was the undisputed, undefeated champion of the MIT Code Jam, a legendary 72-hour competition of coding and endurance. In her final year, she was the last one standing, her screen a blur of elegant, impossibly fast script. Her final opponent, a 30-year-old hotshot tech millionaire who had entered on a whim, finally threw his hands up in defeat at hour 68. That man was Julian Thorne. He'd found her afterward drinking a Red Bull and checking her work. "I've never seen code like that," he'd said, his voice raw with exhaustion and awe. It's not just efficient. It's predictive. How?" She'd looked up, her eyes bright with caffeine and genius. "You're all using brute force. You're trying to answer the question. I'm just teaching the machine to understand the question better. It's a protocol I'm working on. The Petrova protocol." He had offered her a job on the spot. A blank check. A lab. Anything she wanted. She had turned him down. "That's incredibly kind, Mr. Thorne, but I'm getting married." Julian had blinked. Married to who? Another engineer? A physicist? No. She'd blushed. He's in business. Thomas Vance. He's a visionary. He's going to build a company and I'm going to help him." Julian Thorne, a man who saw patterns in everything, had looked at this brilliant, naive young woman and had given her a warning. "Ms. Petrova, Elena, a rocket engine is designed to go to space. You can't put it in a Toyota Camry and expect it to do anything but tear the car in itself to pieces. Don't let him ground you." As a wedding gift, he'd sent a strange antique kryptonite brand high-security lock. The note read, "Don't ever let anyone less intelligent than you set the combination." She'd kept it. For 10 years, she'd been Julian's rocket engine trying to power Thomas's Toyota Camry. And it had, just as Julian predicted, torn her to pieces. Thomas hadn't stolen her work. Not at first. He'd borrowed it. "Elle, I just need a little Vance magic for this presentation. Elle, can you run the numbers for this, just your hobby code?" Her hobby was in fact the Petrova Protocol v3.0, an adaptive self-learning AI that could model markets, predict hardware failures, and analyze data with terrifying accuracy. The Vance engine he sold to clients. It was a clunky, outdated interface. He'd paid a team of developers to build a dashboard that he could understand that sat on top of her work. He was the slick salesman. She was the entire factory. He'd convinced her it was teamwork. He'd convinced her she needed him. "You'd hate this, Elle. It's all schmoozing. It's a performance. You're the art. I'm the stage." He'd isolated her. He'd moved her off payroll 3 years ago. "It's for tax purposes, baby," he'd purred. "We're a family-owned asset. It's simpler. You're an unpaid spousal partner. It protects you." She'd believed him. Until 3 months ago. She had been updating their shared family calendar on the kitchen iPad. And she'd seen the reservations. "Maldives, 2 weeks. Presidential overwater bungalow." For Tiffany Hayes. Her blood had run cold. It wasn't the affair that shocked her. It was the banality of it. The cliché. Then she dug. Elena, the architect of the most sophisticated predictive engine on Earth, turned her gaze inward. She'd used her own protocol to scan his life. She found the texts, the ones he thought he'd deleted. "Tiffany. She's so dull. What do you even talk about? Thomas, nothing. We don't. She's my unambitious burden, but I need her to keep the engine running. 1 more year. Then I'll cut the cord, buy her a condo, and we're free." An unambitious burden. She had sat there in the dark, the white light of the iPad illuminating a decade of lies. The stage wasn't there to present the art. It was there to hide it. He wasn't protecting her. He was imprisoning her. He was a parasite. And he was about to cut the cord. She hadn't cried. She had acted. Her first call was to Julian Thorne. It was 4 a.m. He'd picked up on the first ring. "Julian," she'd said, her voice a whisper, "the Toyota is on fire and the driver is trying to take me down with it. Is that job offer still open?" There was a pause. "For you, Elena, always. My team will be in touch by sunrise. Welcome to Aegis Innovations." Her second call was to a lawyer Julian's team recommended. A shark named Ms. Albright. "He's filed for divorce," Elena told her 2 weeks later. "He's offering me an insulting lump sum my car and my hobby materials." Ms. Albright had smiled. "Oh, that's perfect. We'll take it. We're not fighting." "Oh, heavens no, Ms. Petrova. We're not fighting. We're accepting. With one tiny addition." The plan was simple. It was brutal. It was elegant. It was hers. For the last 3 months, while Thomas was at galas and planning his escape to the Maldives, Elena was migrating. She wasn't just backing up the Petrova protocol. She was moving it, piece by piece, in tiny encrypted data packets hidden inside Vance Solutions' own outgoing data reports to clients. She smuggled her entire life's work off Thomas's servers. The code left on his system was a shell. A demo version, as Julian had called it. It was the V3.0, clumsy and old. The real work, the V6.0, the one she'd been building in secret for 2 years, was being reassembled on a privately owned, air-gapped server farm in a secure Swiss data bunker in Zurich, one owned by Aegis Innovations. The kryptonite lock Julian had given her, it sat on the main server rack in her studio. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a physical key. It was the manual override. When she left this house, she would turn that key. And the Vance engine, the black magic Thomas sold, would be nothing but an empty box. He thought he was cutting her off. He had no idea. She was the one holding the scalpel. The conference room at DeWitt Gable & Klein was a monument to old-world power. The mahogany table was a single 30-foot slab of wood polished to a mirror finish. The air smelled of floor wax and 100-year-old money. Thomas was in his element. He sat at the head of the table, flanked by his lawyer, Harrison. Harrison was a bulldog, a man who billed $1,500 an hour to tear families apart and enjoyed his work. On the other side, lost in the shadow, sat Elena and her lawyer, Ms. Albright. Ms. Albright was a scalpel. She was tiny, wore a simple, unflashy suit, and hadn't said a word in 20 minutes. "So we are in agreement," Harrison boomed, his voice echoing in the quiet room. "My client, Mr. Vance, in his magnanimity, retains 100% of the Vance Solutions corporate entity, the marital home in Greenwich, and the full stock portfolio. Mrs. Vance, soon to be Ms. Petrova, will receive a one-time lump sum payout of $500,000, the 2018 Volvo she currently drives, and—" Harrison squinted at the paper. "And all personal effects and intellectual property created by her, unrelated to Vance Solutions operations." He looked up at Ms. Albright. That's the clause you added." Ms. Albright nodded, her hands folded. "That is correct." Harrison glanced at Thomas and stifled a laugh. You're sure you don't want to, I don't know, ask for the dog?" Thomas chuckled, a rich, condescending sound. Now, Harrison, let her have her knitting patterns. It's fine." He looked at Elena. His expression was a masterpiece of practiced patronizing sympathy. Truly, I wish you the best. I hope this is enough for you to, get a fresh start." Elena's face was a perfect, impassive mask. She hadn't looked at him once. She just stared at her hands folded in her lap. The perfect beaten gray mouse, Thomas thought. God, this was easy. He was almost giddy. He was free. He was untethered. He'd just saved himself from a 50-50 split that would have cost him tens of millions. He'd bought his freedom for $500,000 and a 2018 Volvo. He was by any measure a genius. "Right then," Harrison said, sliding the thick stack of papers toward Elena. "Ms. Petrova, if you'd sign." Ms. Albright put a hand on the document. "One moment." She produced a fresh sheet of paper. A small addendum which I'm sure Mr. Vance won't mind. It's just a clarification of the Personal Projects Clause. It specifically names one of those projects, a Petrova Protocol, as her exclusive property. A formality, you understand. Thomas burst out laughing. She was trying to take her hobby. This was priceless. The Petrova Protocol, he repeated, his voice dripping with amusement. That thing you scribble about in your notebooks, by all means, L. You can have it. God knows I can't make heads or tails of it. It's probably worth tens of dollars. Sign it, Harrison, Thomas said, waving his hand. Let's get this done. I have a 1:00 p.m. reservation at the Capitol Grill. Harrison shrugged, initialed the addendum, and pushed the stack. Elena picked up the pen. Her hand was perfectly steady. She signed Elena Petrova in a clear, strong script. The stack was pushed to Thomas. He took his own custom-engraved Mont Blanc pen. He looked at Elena, who finally looked up at him. Her eyes were unreadable. He gave her a slow, pitying wink. And then, with a flourish, Thomas Vance smiled as the pen hit the paper. He signed his name with the practiced confidence of a king. And with that, Harrison boomed, "All matters are concluded. Mr. Vance, Ms. Petrova, you are divorced." Thomas snapped his briefcase shut. He stood adjusting the cuffs of his $5,000 suit. He felt 10 pounds lighter. He felt victorious. "Elena," he said, the picture of magnanimity. "No hard feelings, eh? I'll have my assistant coordinate the removal of your things from the studio by end of day. I'm sure you'll be more comfortable in wherever you're going." "Thank you, Thomas," she said. Her voice was level, almost light. "You have no idea." He strode out of the conference room, Harrison at his side, the bulldog already on his phone, no doubt racking up his next bill. Thomas was composing a text. To Tiffany. Subject, "It's done. The anchor is cut. Get the champagne ready. The real stuff." He was so busy basking in the glow of his own brilliance that he didn't notice Elena and Ms. Albright hadn't followed him into the elevator. They had in fact stayed behind for one final piece of business. As the elevator doors closed on Thomas, Ms. Albright handed Elena a small encrypted tablet. "He's clear," Ms. Albright said. Elena's fingers flew across the screen. She was typing a command. Command, enact sanctuary, V6 command. Revoke key Vance solutions command. Wipe local shell, V3. A single green line of text appeared. Executing. "It's done," Elena said, handing the tablet back. "And Mr. Thorne?" Ms. Albright asked. "He's downstairs," Elena said, pulling her simple gray coat around her. "He said he wanted to be here for the final breach of contract." Thomas Vance felt like he could fly. He burst out of the elevator into the gleaming, cold marble lobby of DeWitt, Gable & Klein, his lawyer Harrison at his side. "That," Harrison said, letting out a low whistle, "was the cleanest extraction I have ever seen, Tom. A masterpiece. You're a legend." "It's all about predictive agility, Harrison," Thomas said, tapping the side of his nose. He'd never felt more powerful. He was a conqueror. "You see the patterns." "I'll tell you the pattern I saw." Harrison laughed. "I saw a woman who didn't know what she had, and a man who knew exactly what he was worth. She didn't even fight for the company. She let you keep everything." "Why would she fight?" Thomas said, his voice magnanimous. "She knows her place. She knows I built Vance Solutions. She was the bookkeeper. A good girl, but, you know, not in my league. Not anymore." He pulled out his phone, the black iPhone 16 Pro he'd expensed to the company. He hit send on the text to Tiffany. Her reply was a string of champagne and diamond ring emojis. His new life. His new queen. He was so high on his own victory he decided to spread the wealth. He dialed his COO Markham. "Markham," he boomed, pushing through the revolving doors onto the street. The November air was crisp, but Thomas was a furnace of triumph. Yes, boss? Markham's voice was tinny nervous. He was a solid, if uninspired numbers guy, a perfect lieutenant. Markham, my man, good news. The distraction is officially handled. The anchor is cut. We are clear for takeoff. Oh, Markham said. That's great, boss. Congratulations. It is great, Thomas said. And to celebrate, I'm taking the real team for steaks. Clear my schedule for the afternoon. Call the Capitol Grill, get the private room. And tell the dev team, the first bottle of Dom Perignon is on me. We're celebrating the future. The uninterrupted future of Vance Solutions. Understood, boss. Steaks and champagne. You're the man, Tom. Damn right I am, Thomas said, hanging up. He was standing on the curb, Harrison beside him. Both men grinning masters of their universe. He was a king standing outside his castle, having just painlessly exiled his quiet, mousy, burdensome queen. He looked down the street. Where's the car I ordered? He grumbled. Right here, boss, Harrison said, gesturing. And Thomas looked up. It wasn't the black Lincoln town car he'd ordered. It was impossible. Idling silently at the curb, its presence making every other vehicle on the street look like a child's toy, was a Maybach S680. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It was a $400,000 block of polished obsidian, a silent mobile fortress of obscene wealth. Well, damn, Harrison. Thomas breathed impressed despite himself. You really went all out on the congratulations car, didn't you? That's not my car, Tom. Harrison said, his own voice suddenly small. My Prius is in the garage. Thomas's smile faltered. He looked at the car. The windows were tinted to a liquid black. It hummed, it didn't idle. It was an alien presence. Then, who? The revolving doors behind them hissed. Elena and Ms. Albright stepped out onto the sidewalk. Thomas barely noticed them. He was still staring at the car. This was the kind of car he should have. He was the visionary. The chauffeur's door opened. A man got out. He wasn't a chauffeur. He was dressed like one in a suit that was sharper than Thomas's, but he moved with the precise economic grace of a high-level security professional. He walked to the rear passenger door and opened it, standing at attention, and a man stepped out. Time stopped. The city noise, the traffic, Harrison's breathing. It all faded. Thomas Vance's heart, which had been soaring, seized in his chest. His blood turned to ice water. He knew that face. The world knew that face. It was the face that stared out from the cover of Forbes, Time, and Wired. The face of the man whose company, Aegis Innovations, was worth more than the GDP of most small countries. It was Julian Thorne. Thomas's mind, a high-speed processor second ago, was now a blue screen of death. Thorne here now. A wild, narcissistic, insane hope flared. He's here for me. He heard about the divorce. He's making a play. He's here to buy Vance Solutions. Thomas puffed out his chest. He straightened his Tom Ford tie. He took a step forward, his salesman's smile, the one that had charmed clients and investors for a decade, snapping onto his face. He was ready to make the elevator pitch of his life. Mr. Thorne, Thomas started, his voice a strange, strangled version of his usual boom. Thomas Vance, I don't know if you... Julian Thorne didn't look at him. He didn't glance at him. He didn't even register Thomas's existence. To Julian Thorne, Thomas Vance was a piece of sidewalk, a lamppost, a thing. Thorne's eyes, famously intense and analytical, were fixed only on Elena. He walked past Thomas, He stopped in front of the gray mouse, and he smiled. It was not a polite smile. It was not a business smile. It was warm, personal, and brimming with a respect so profound it was almost a physical force. "Elena?" Thorne said, his voice a smooth baritone that commanded markets. "Is it done?" Elena, his Elena, the unambitious burden, the domestic wife. She smiled back, a genuine, radiant smile that Thomas hadn't seen in 10 years. A smile that lit her up from the inside, transforming her in that instant from a gray mouse to someone else, someone powerful. "It's done, Julian," she said, her voice clear and strong. "The Petrova protocol is secure. The Vance engine is now just an empty shell." Thomas's smile didn't just fade. It cracked. It shattered. It fell from his face in 1,000 pieces. "What?" he whispered. What's going on?" Thomas stammered. The words were glue in his mouth. "Elena, you know Julian Thorne." The gray mouse was gone. The woman who turned to him was someone he had never ever seen. Her posture, which had been a mousy slump for a decade, was now ramrod straight. Her eyes, which he'd thought of as dull, were now blazing with a cold, terrifying fire. She laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. It was the sound of a lock rusted for 10 years finally springing open. "Know him," she said, her voice dropping an octave. "Thomas Julian was my external examiner for my doctoral thesis at MIT. The hobby you've been mocking, the knitting pattern you just let me keep, the one you joked about." Julian Thorne offered Elena his arm. She took it. They looked, Thomas thought, with a sickening lurch, perfect together. Power and power. Ms. Petrova's hobby, Mr. Vance. Thorne said, his voice as cold and precise as a surgeon's scalpel, is a predictive analytics engine that is conservatively 5 years ahead of anything Aegis has ever seen. It's not a business tool. It is quite literally a crystal ball. And you just gave it away. The blood drained from Thomas's face. The pavement of the street seemed to tilt beneath his feet. No, he stuttered. The Vance engine. That's mine. The company. Vance Solutions. Our IP. It's in the contract." "Indeed it is," said a sharp voice. "Ms. Albright." The scalpel stepped forward. "And the contract is very clear. Vance Solutions owns all the work product you paid for, Mr. Vance." Thorne checked his watch. A quiet, impossibly elegant Patek Philippe Calatrava. "Elena hasn't been a salaried employee of Vance Solutions for 3 years and 4 months. Check your own books. You moved her off payroll to save on taxes and simplify the corporate structure. Your words, I believe. You listed her as an unpaid spousal partner," Ms. Albright continued, reading from her notes. "Which means for 3 years all of her work, all of her personal projects, including the Petrova protocol, have been her own. And," Elena added, her voice chillingly calm, "that one little clause I asked for. The one you laughed at. The Petrova protocol was never on a Vance Solutions server, Thomas. Not the real one. The Vance engine you've been selling was a 2018 demo. A toy. The real engine, the V6.0, was on my own private network in my studio. The one you called a fire hazard. The pieces were not falling into place. They were slamming into place with the force of a nuclear detonation. Every single triumph. The Gentech miracle. The call system's logistics solution. The net core financial projection that had made him. It wasn't him. It was her. It was all her. He wasn't the visionary. He was a spokesman. He was a mascot. You planned this. Thomas whispered, his voice cracking. He looked from Elena to Thorne. This is collusion. Thorne actually chuckled. A cold, dry, humorless sound. Mr. Vance, collusion is what criminals do. This is due diligence. I have been trying to hire Ms. Petrova for a decade, since the day she publicly humiliated me in a coding competition. But she was loyal, to a fault. She kept saying her husband's company needed her help. He gave Thomas a look of profound biological contempt. She, a rocket engine, was trying to power your bicycle, and you were complaining about the noise. So I waited, Thorne continued, and when my team alerted me that you had filed for divorce, well, let's just say I reopened negotiations, and this time the offer was substantial. He's giving me, Elena said, her voice clear in the sudden silence, a $2 billion holding company to run, Aegis Petrova Dynamics. We're moving the real V6.0 to the Zurich bunker tonight. $2 billion. Thomas choked. Oh, and Thomas, Elena said, turning. This part was for him and him alone. You were right. I am a burden, an unambitious burden. I found the texts, Thomas. I found the Maldives reservation. I found everything. She let that hang in the air. You were going to cut the cord, she whispered, her voice a venomous dart. You were going to buy me a condo. You were going to cut out the cancer. I just beat you to the operating table, she whispered, her voice a venomous dart. You were going to cut the cord. I just beat you to the scalpel. It's a lie, Thomas shrieked, looking at Harrison. Harrison, do something, sue them. Harrison the bulldog looked pale. He was looking at Julian Thorne, at Ms. Albright, and at the Maybach. He was a man who knew instinctively when he was outgunned. Tom, Harrison whispered, you told me she was a non-contributing spouse. You joked about the Petrova protocol. Oh God, you signed the addendum. It's her property. It's all hers. We're going to be late, Elena, Thorne said, ignoring the meltdown. He gestured to the Maybach. Arthur will take you to the Teterboro. The G650 is waiting. I have one last piece of business here. Thomas's fading hope flickered. He's staying. He's talking to me. Elena got into the car. The door shut with a silent, heavy, final thud. It was the sound of a vault closing. The Maybach pulled away its engine, a whisper. It was gone. Thomas was left on the curb. His $5,000 suit suddenly felt like a cheap polyester rag. He was alone, with Julian Thorne. Thorne turned. The warmth he'd shown Elena was gone. His eyes were Arctic ice. Mr. Vance? Mr. Thorne, sir? Thomas begged, his voice cracking. Listen, this is a misunderstanding. Elena, she's emotional. We can make a deal. We had a deal, Thorne said. You were my unwitting beta tester, and you just breached your EULA. Thorne pulled a phone from his pocket. He didn't dial. He just spoke to the man who materialized at his side, his head of security. Alex. Sir. Inform our legal teams. Gentech Pharma. Call Systems Logistics. Netcore Financial. Thomas's stomach dissolved. His three biggest clients. All three are portfolio companies of Aegis Innovations, Thorne said to Thomas conversationally. All three signed with Vance Solutions based solely on the guaranteed performance of the Petrova Protocol V3.0, an engine which, as of 90 seconds ago, you no longer possess, and in fact are legally forbidden from accessing as per the addendum you signed. No. Wait. Please. Thomas was choking. Alex, Thorne continued, enact the termination for breach clauses. All three contracts. Effective immediately. And begin litigation. I want damages. I want everything. He built a company on our IP. I want it back. With interest. You can't, Thomas cried. It'll ruin me. Julian Thorne looked at Thomas, truly looked at him for the first time. It was a look of profound biological disinterest, like a man looking at a bug he'd just found on his shoe. Yes, Thorne said. That is the point. You had a deal, Thorne said, echoing Thomas's own words. You had a partner who was smarter than I am, more loyal than you deserved, and you treated her like ballast. You didn't just lose your wife, Mr. Vance. You just lost your company. You just don't know it yet. Thorne turned and walked away. A second identical black car, a Rolls-Royce Ghost, pulled up. He got in and was gone. Thomas stood on the sidewalk. He was no longer a king. He was a statue frozen in the exact moment of its own destruction. Harrison, the bulldog, was backing away, holding his hands up. Tom, I can't. I'm recusing myself. You lied to me. You're radioactive. Don't call me. Harrison turned and for the first time in his professional life fled. Thomas was alone. The sound of the city, the traffic, the people, it all came rushing back in a deafening, painful roar. His personal phone buzzed. Tiffany. I'm at Lebain poppin' bottles. Where are you, my king? He felt a wave of nausea so profound he had to grip a nearby lamppost. His other phone, his work phone, rang. The screen flashed Markham, COO. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely accept the call. Markham, he started, his voice a hollow croak. The stakes. We're postponing. Shut up, Markham shrieked. The sound was so high-pitched, so full of pure animal panic that Thomas pulled the phone from his ear. Just shut up. Tom, what did you do? What do you mean, the engine? The Vance engine? It's gone. What do you mean gone? Thomas whispered, a new cold terror creeping up his spine. Like, down. No, Markham screamed. Not down, down. I can fix down is a problem. This is a void. It's revoked. Our core system. It's not gone. Tom, it's empty. The partitions they're blank. All our proprietary code, the magic, it's just a blank directory, a login screen we don't have the keys. It's pointing to a server in Zurich. The backups, Thomas stammered. Call the backups. Restore from yesterday. I am, Markham sobbed, a grown man sobbing. That's what I'm telling you. The backups are gone. The cloud instances are empty. The off-site cold storage. It's not gone. Tom, it's encrypted. With a key we don't have. It's bricked. All of it. Tom, what is the Petrova Protocol? Thomas's knees buckled. Tom, what is it? Markham screamed. It's an illegal email that just hit my inbox. A cease and desist from Aegis Innovations, it says. Unauthorized use of Petrova Protocol IP 881A. Tom, that's our engine. That's the name of the source code. It was never ours. Was it, Tom? Thomas couldn't speak. He was just breathing. Short, shallow, panicked gasps. Oh, God, Markham whispered. Oh, God. It was her. It was all Elena. We all knew she was smart, Tom, but we thought you Oh, you idiot. You, you idiot. You didn't divorce your wife, Tom. You divorced the company. An email pinged on his phone. The subject line was cold stark. From legal@gentech.com. Subject: urgent notice of termination for material breach of contract ping. From legal@callsystems.com. Subject: contract termination. Effective immediately. Ping. From legal@netcore.com. Subject: legal action initiated. Breach damages and fraud. It was an avalanche. It was a digital execution. In the span of 5 minutes, Vance Solutions, his multi-million-dollar empire, his life's work, had evaporated. It was now just a brand name, an empty office, and a mountain of catastrophic, unpayable debt. The house. The glass and steel mansion from Architectural Digest. The one he'd put up as collateral for the last round of expansion. The one that was leveraged to the hilt, to pay for Tiffany's new consulting contract, the lump sum payment, the $500,000 he'd just generously given Elena. It was the only liquid cash he had, and she had let him give it to her. She hadn't needed his money. She had taken it as a parting gift. She'd let him pay her for his own execution. The sound that ripped out of Thomas's throat was not human. It was a raw, ugly, wounded animal sound. It was the sound of a man who had been skinned alive in 5 minutes on a public street. He, Thomas Vance, the Titan, the visionary, the face, slid down the lamppost, the $15,000 divorce papers scattering from his numb fingers onto the wet, dirty pavement. He smiled, signing the papers. Now he sat on a dirty city street, and he cried. He cried as the first damning news alert lit up his phone. From Forbes News Alert. Subject: Julian Thorne and mystery prodigy Elena Petrova launched $2 billion Aegis Petrova Dynamics to revolutionize AI. The rest of Thomas Vance's day was a blur of catastrophic failure, a masterclass in total unrecoverable collapse. 2:30 p.m. He stumbles back into the Vance Solutions office. He took the subway. He paid for a ticket. The open-plan, collaborative space he'd been so proud of is in total chaos. The phones are ringing off the hook, a symphony of angry clients. Young employees, the dev team he was going to buy champagne for, are clustered by the windows, their faces pale, scrolling through the Forbes article on their phones. They look up as he enters. It's not respect he sees. It's pity and contempt. Markham is in his glass-walled office. Thomas's office, his head in his hands. "The press is calling, Tom," Markham whispered, his voice ravaged. He didn't look up. "The Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. They're running the Aegis Petrova story. They're asking us for comment. They're calling you a fraud, Tom, the Milli Vanilli of tech. Tell them it's a hostile takeover," Thomas said, grasping at straws. A theft. A theft of what, Tom?" Markham stood, his face white with rage. "A theft of the thing you told us for 10 years was yours. Are you going to go on record and announce to the world that your ex-wife was the only valuable thing in this company and you were too stupid to know it? She tricked me." "No, Tom," Markham roared, slamming his hand on the desk. "She just let you. She let you be you, and this is what you are. You're a brochure, Tom. A handsome, glossy, empty brochure." Markham ripped his ID badge from his neck and threw it at Thomas. You can have the stakes, Tom. I'm going to go talk to a lawyer. And then I'm going to go talk to the Wall Street Journal." Markham shouldered past him and walked out. He didn't look back. 4:00 p.m. Tiffany arrives. She does not look like her Instagram photos. Her face is a mask of fury, her eyes red from crying, no, rage. "Thomas," she says. Her voice is not the high breathy coo of Tom Tom. It is hard. It is cold. "Tiff, baby, thank God." He starts moving to hug her. It's been a nightmare. Listen, that bitch, she..." Tiffany slaps him. The sound cracks through the empty office. "You idiot," she seethes. My agent just called me, my sponsors. The skincare line, the athleisure brand, they're dropping me. They're enacting the morality clause." "What why?" "Why?" she mocks. "Because my brand is associated with you. Because I'm all over the internet as the mistress of the biggest fraud in tech. I'm a laughingstock. Tiff, baby, we can fix this," he pleads. "The Maldives." "The Maldives." She laughs a harsh, ugly sound. "My lawyer just called me. He said, our consulting fees, the money you gave me, it can be clawed back in a bankruptcy. He says I might have to pay it back." She wasn't here to comfort him. She was here to untag herself. "You told me she was nothing." "Tom," Tiffany accused, her eyes narrowing, "you said you were the genius. I tied my brand to you." "I am the genius," he insisted, a pathetic, desperate edge to his voice. "No," she said, pulling a Cartier love bracelet from her wrist, one he'd bought her with Gentech money, and tossing it on his desk. It clattered loud in the silence. "You're not. You're just a loud, empty suit. You're last year's model Thomas. And you're boring." She turned and her heels clicked an angry final rhythm on the imported Italian marble floors. She was gone. 6:00 p.m. The sun is setting. The office is dark. The power, he realizes, has been shut off. The automatic payment must have failed. The employees are gone. Markham is gone. Tiffany is gone. Thomas is alone, in his $100,000 office, in the dark, staring at the skyline, at the lights of other companies, real companies. His company was a hollowed-out carcass. His fiancée had abandoned him. His lawyers had abandoned him. The lawsuits from his clients, his landlord Aegis Innovations, and soon his employees. It wouldn't just be a flood. It would be a tsunami. He was ruined. He was a man who had everything, and in his greed, his arrogance to get more, he had lost it all. He thought for the first time not about the company, but about Elena. He remembered her in college, her face lit by a computer screen, her brow furrowed. He remembered her looking up at him, her eyes bright. "Thomas, I think I've solved it." She had always solved it. And he had hated her for it. He thought of her face in the law office, the stillness. It wasn't surrender. It was patience. It was the patience of a bomber sitting in the cockpit, her hand on the release, just waiting for the perfect moment. His phone, his personal phone, buzzed. He fumbled for it. 1 bar of battery left. A text from an unknown international number. +41, Switzerland. It was a single image, a photo taken from the window of a private jet. It showed a snow-capped mountain range, the Alps glowing pink in the sunset. In the foreground, a single hand was visible holding a glass of champagne. Elena's hand. On her 4th finger was not the modest wedding band he'd given her. It was a new ring. A simple, elegant platinum band set with a single flawless blue-gray diamond that Thomas knew instinctively cost more than his entire house. And on her wrist. Thomas's stomach dissolved. On her wrist was Julian Thorne's Patek Philippe Calatrava. The same one Thorne had been wearing in the lobby. He hadn't just given her a ring. He'd given her his watch. Thomas's mind, which had insisted they were just partners, finally shattered. It wasn't just a partnership. It wasn't just a new job. It was a replacement. In every possible way. He looked at the photo of the Alps, at the watch, at the ring. He looked at his own empty, darkening office. He looked at the useless Cartier bracelet on his desk. He had smiled signing those papers. He thought he was closing a deal. He had been. He'd just been on the wrong side of it. And as the full, complete, and utter totality of his ruin, financial, professional, personal, finally settled upon him, Thomas Vance, the visionary, the king, the fraud, put his head on his desk next to a bracelet from a woman who'd left him. And for the first time, he cried. He wept for his company. He wept for his money. And he wept most bitterly of all for the watch he could never buy. And the woman who would never again look at him. And that, as they say, is the end of the story, but the beginning of Elena's. We watch these stories and we wait for the twist, for that moment of karmic justice. Thomas thought he was the main character, but he was just the before photo in Elena's after. It's a powerful reminder, never ever underestimate the quiet ones. They're not just listening, they're taking notes. What did you think of Thomas's downfall? Was it justified, or was Elena just as cold as he was? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story and want to hear more tales of drama, justice, and shocking twists, do me a solid, hit that like button, click subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, go ahead and share it with them. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.